everybody. How are you all?
Morning.
Good. So can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So how many first-time attendees do we have today? Do we have anybody? Lynn and Paula? Hi. Nice to have you here today. So for those that don't know me, I am Stephanie Parson, and I am a full-time real estate broker. And also here today are some of my fellow teammates and helpers. So we have Sharon in the back, and she's actually going to be a panelist today. Kim, Joelle, she's the one that's pretty pregnant back there. And then Claire over there, who's my daughter. So thanks to them for helping out today. So we have over 50 years experience in real estate, and we specialize in working with seniors, and we also provide downsizing services. And how the Senior Empowerment True Series was born was because we saw a lot of seniors needing help and guidance in the downsizing, and also resources and honest information for late in life decisions. So just a couple quick housekeeping things. We run from 10 to 11 o'clock. We will have the panelists answer questions that I prepared for them. We'll wrap that up by 11:15, and then we will have open Q&A at that time. So we ask that you hold your questions till then. We've given you some paper to jot down any questions so you don't forget them. We have a no selling policy, so our panelists today, they do have information. If you're interested in picking it up after, you're welcome to do so. Also, they'll be sticking around after the presentation if you have anything specific you want to talk to them at greater length about. And I think everybody either has a notebook or got a notebook. So if you would also fill out our orange evaluations, we greatly appreciate that. We do read all of those. And what else? We have a sign up for our next month's seminar if you'd like to sign up today for that. So, all right, without further ado. How many of you are homeowners? Oh my goodness, a lot of you. So that is great. So turn to your neighbor and say, I'm going to learn something new today. Now turn back to your neighbor and say, it's about time. So would you agree there are many options or opinions, options, factors when it comes to selling your home? There's a lot of different choices and a lot of things going on to decide. So what are the right decisions for you? Well, a lot has to do with your specific goal. Is your goal to sell quickly, sell as is, or for the most amount of money, or a lot of times it's all of the above? But when we work with seniors, most of the time their goal is to get the most amount of money for the retirement years. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So can I have our expert panelists come up and take a seat up here? So we have 3 panelists today. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. We got it changed quickly. Okay, have a seat. It is. All right. So tell me, you want to introduce yourself real quickly? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
So, am I supposed to use this?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Sandy Rubin, and I'm with Flair Home Stagings. And we have been staging homes for 39 years. And I'm quite an expert in this area as far as it comes to senior downsizing and moving on to the next place. So I hope that you'll ask your questions, and I have lots of good information for you.
Okay. You're right.
Okay, is this something you want to use this before I go?
No, you go ahead and go.
Awesome.
I'm trying to talk loud.
Thank you for being here. My name is Danny Bopp, and I'm with Appraisal Advantage. I work right here out of my home in St. Peter's, just probably 3 blocks away, so it's good to be close. I've done appraisals for going on 20 years, and I go from Missouri all the way to Illinois. And basically, in a nutshell, I just tell you what the market shows that your home is worth for whatever you need that for. So again, thanks for coming. It's great to be here, and I look forward to this.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Sharon Brummer, and I actually am in my 31st year of real estate, and I'm on Stephanie's team, Parson Group. I've done everything from a $20,000 deal to a $2 million deal, and the thing that is always the same is effectively communicating with your buyers or your sellers, and we're going to go through that today. I live local as well in St. Peter's. I have 7 sons and 7 grandkids. So besides real estate, I keep really busy being a grandma. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to leave this back to Stephanie.
Sorry guys, we're gonna be passing this back and forth a lot here. All right, so let's do a few warm-up questions. Sandy, is staging a home just decorating, or does it actually add value to the bottom line?
So why would you pay for something that's not adding value to your home? We stage over 1,000 houses a year, and the reason we're doing that is because people are making more money after they stage their home. So staging adds value to your home if it's done appropriately.
Okay, thank you for the warm-up answer. Danny, in the appraisal world, does value come down to finishes and updates, or does it have a lot more to do with location and facts?
I was going to say this is kind of like the Price is Right, so if you guys yell answers, I'll do my best, but I better give my own answer. But the number one thing, you may have heard this, is location, location, location. Updates and finishes do matter to your home, but as an appraiser, it may be a little backwards than how most people think. We look at the market first, which is the location and what other sales are doing, and then we see how finishes and updates fit into the home. So yes, they both matter, but location is the number one thing in real estate.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Sharon, what are some misconceptions about how you get the most amount of money for your home?
Because it's such a seller's market today, people think, oh, I can just put a sign in my yard and it's going to sell. And it most likely will, but once again, it's going to be based on condition, and location is really probably the 2 most important things. A house that's in West County and a house versus in St. Charles County, because of its location, will sell more. Even though it's not a better home, but just because it's based on location, a lot of times that's what really drives pricing.
Okay, to clarify that, you're saying West County would typically sells for a higher price?
Unfortunately, there's such a misconception about, oh, I live in West County, or I live in Ladue, or I live in town and country. Of course my house is worth more. And I'm sure Sandy, has run into that throughout the years, because she does staging all throughout St. Louis and St. Charles County. It's really based on location and what's important to the individual.
Okay. So first, thank you everybody for answering those questions. So Sandy, we're gonna direct questions to you, put you first on the hot seat. So when it comes to selling your home, I've seen firsthand the difference that staging makes in a buyer's interest level and the selling price. So the saying goes, you only get one chance to make a great first impression. And in today's market, most shoppers look at homes online. If they like what they see, they'll tour your home. If not, they'll move on to the next home to look at those pictures. So, Sandy, do people usually stage their home when it's vacant or occupied?
We do just as many houses that are occupied as we do vacant houses. And that trend has changed over the 39 years I've been doing this. And the reason for that is that when real estate agents started looking at our houses that we were staging that were vacant. They were going, any way you can help us with this house over here? You know, they've lived there for 30 years. Not much has changed. They don't know what things to get rid of. And can you come help us? And we started doing that, and we started selling houses much faster than the typical market. And in doing that, more and more people came and said, do you stage occupied houses? Now, all staging companies, most staging companies stage occupied houses, but there's a whole different way to do that. Either way, staging a house makes you money. It is not an expense.
Okay, thank you for answering that. So we have some photos that we're going to show, some examples of stage home. So Sandy, what's your strategy when you stage a home? What are you looking to achieve, and why does it look better than something that I as a homeowner can come up with?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that directly based on the demographics in this room, which I'm part of. So who better to answer that question? Usually when we live in a house, as many years as most of us have lived in a house, we are loving the things that we have. We love just one person just telling me the chest or cabinet that was handed down in the family. While other people who are seeing that may not have that same interest. And I'm sure most of you are finding out that your children could care less about that, okay? So any thoughts that we had, we were going to be handing things off down to our children. That's not really happening so much. And I was just telling this young lady here that give them jewelry. They'll be much happier with jewelry. But what the difference makes is that it shows a buyer, when they walk into that place, it doesn't meet their expectations. When we have our older furniture in a home, it doesn't meet today's young buyer. Literally 5 to 7 years ago, we had to clear all the furnishings out of our warehouses. We had over 60,000 square footage of artwork, furniture, accessories, and we had to change that out because today's buyer is not the buyer of yesteryear. They're more impressed with that first eyeball look, which they're going to get online. They're going to see your house online, and if it looks like Grandma's house, they're probably not going to come and buy it unless you're sitting, you've undervalued your property in the middle of Ladue, and everything, they just want to buy it because that's where they want to live. Their kids are going to that school. They want to go to Ladue School. They want to go to Parkway West in the county, or they're closer to one of the private schools. That's not how we want our market to work. So we work at getting you the very best price by meeting expectations. When you saw that room before, it was empty. It didn't look very impressive, did it? It was a fireplace in the middle of a blank room. We brought in brand new furniture that the young people like. We brought in a tall piece of furniture to add dimension and equal the height of that fireplace. What we've done is create interest and shown that buyer how they can live in that property. Did I answer that?
Yes, you did. Okay. So, why does staging influence buyers? And when the actual house hasn't changed, what's the psychology there?
So this room in particular was in a house that was been on the market for over 2 years, possibly 3 years. The main problem with the house was that it was over $3 million sitting on a corner in a fabulous location. But when people went into the house, it didn't look like a $2 or $3 million house. And that doesn't really matter because that applies to every house at every price point. People said the dining room was too small and that they couldn't barely get 6 people in there. So we had to change that perspective so that when people saw it, it looked like a house of that price point. We could get more people in there. And we did this by making sure that our table was appropriately sized and by adding artwork in there that's as tall as I am, which brought the ceiling up so that when people saw it, it felt bigger. And the main thing that we did is we added furniture that people saw when they're watching HGTV, when they're going to the stores to buy their new things. And we created an image that people went, wow, and sold the house in that weekend. Multiple offers.
Okay, and one of the things she said, I know she was talking about the price point of that home. It's common really at any price point.
At
So
any price point, exactly.
okay, so when do you ideally want to be brought into the process?
We actually can be brought in at any time of the process. If you're feeling that you need extra advice as to maybe if you're going to live in the property, what pieces of furniture that you want to keep in the house are the pieces that could stay in the house and still sell your property, we're going to come in and be very honest with you, because you're not bringing me in there to gloss over things. You want to know what you can do to get the best value for your home. This is the time you want to make every extra dime on that house. So we will come in there, explain to you what we can do, help you decide what stays, what goes, and overall increase the sellability of your house, and at the same time give you some confidence in what you're doing.
Okay, so the answer was anytime, but
When you're ready.
the best time, in my opinion, would be ahead of time.
Yes.
So let's be proactive, get things in the right order, be organized, and be ready to go. So, but in that one case, it was a house that failed to sell, and then you were brought in.
Yes.
That is something I, as a realtor, do not want to happen. So, so yeah, I do use staging, recommend staging at different times.
I'd like to
Add something that I didn't say to begin with, sorry, Stephanie. Not only are we just going to tell you about furniture, but we can tell you about paint colors. We can tell you about how to lay out your house the best way. We can say, you know what, if you change this one thing, your selling price is going to go up far more than the cost of that one particular change. Our information isn't just limited to staging your house. We do the majority of the builders in St. Louis, so we can help you make decisions on what's most current, what's going to work with the finishes and things that you have today, and what finishes, changes can help you get that extra money that you're going to want at this time in your life.
Okay, thank you very much. So, talk to us a little bit about virtual staging, pros and cons of that. And I think that we have some pictures of that, if we can skip to virtual staging. Okay, so this is the
Yes.
house as it looks, okay?
Right.
So this is virtual staging, which the technology is there. We're not seeing it being applied yet to the degree that would probably make a better buying decision. But what we do know is that when you come into a house that has been virtually staged and you looked at it online and said, I want to come over and see it, when you get into the house, what do you see? The same blank, empty place and all of the flaws that were in the house to begin with. And you can't, that person is then disappointed because it doesn't look like it did before. And an example of that is a house that we did where the carpet was fairly soiled. In the virtual staging, you couldn't see the carpet at all. And when people got to the house, all that was in the room, there was no longer a bed, there was no longer all of the other things that made a house look pretty online. It was dirty carpet. So what we did when we came in and put the furniture in it, the same house. Why are we putting the furniture in it? Because virtual selling did not sell it. Because when people got there, they were disappointed. But when they got there with the furniture in, again, we sold it very quickly, within a week. And my main point is that virtual staging may look good up front, but you gotta sell the buyer when they get to the house.
So I agree that it accomplishes that, and then buyers come and go, wrong, this is not the same house, okay? They don't have the spatial concept. They're overall just disappointed by that. Now, it's not something that you guys do virtual staging, okay? It is something that we as realtors have available to us if we so choose. But it doesn't accomplish the end result, which is letting the buyers have that feeling when they are in the house, that they can see how the space can be used. And so it doesn't necessarily help sell the house. It may help get some people out to see it.
So particularly if you have some space in your home that's unusual, when a buyer comes in there and that space is not staged properly or furnished properly, when they get in there, they can't figure out how to use it. When they look online and see a virtual staging and they go into that house, they're not able to see how they're going to live in the space unless you have a very common room. And even then, they can't tell, is my furniture going to fit in this space? Is this wall going to be long enough? Or what if the wall isn't long enough? These are all the things that we can address when we're staging. We're not coming in and just sticking some furniture in the room. Our main goal is to furnish that room in a way that feels desirable to the next buyer based on how they are probably going to use the space, which many times is very different from how we use the space.
That's exactly right. So I met with a potential seller a couple weeks ago, and he's in a 2-story home, and he had moved his master bedroom down to the living room. It honestly looked very nice, and that's the way he was using the home. But the next people who would be interested in buying it would not most likely be using it that way. So that was a recommendation, of course, to take care of that. So he's actually going to move out, which is the easiest thing to do for many people involved, and then we will have his particular home stage. So, what about if I have an occupied home? And it's being staged, am I liable for any damages to it?
So if someone else comes into your home while our things are in there and they damage something, no, you are not liable. However, if we have put furniture in your home and we've asked you not to sit on it or to use it, and you let your dog get up on it every day, we're not going to be very happy about that. So we understand there are some limitations to staging a home that you live in. You still need to live in it. But what we find is that most buyers are eager to sell their home, and they can minimize their living area for a period of time to get that house sold. The sellers, I'm sorry, not the buyers. So yes, the seller, if we put a couch in your living room and maybe you have 2 chairs in your family room that are yours, and we're bringing the couch in that room, you'll use those 2 chairs and not ours. If we've switched out your kitchen set, we don't care if you sit on our kitchen chairs. That's okay. It's our upholstered items, the bedding that we bring into the bedrooms that make a huge difference. Our bedding will make a huge difference in how people perceive it. We just ask that you fold it down and then put it back. Take a picture so you can see how it looked when we finished, because it won't be that easy to get it back if you haven't. But we try to accommodate you in as many ways as we possibly can.
So how long does it take for your team to actually stage a home?
So usually between 2 to 3 days. Our movers arrive usually on the first day. We're putting furniture in, we're moving things around if you live in it, and we're looking to see how everything fits in your space. It's not an exact science. Sometimes we brought a couch that's just a little bit too long, even though we thought we had the right size. We want to be able to make those changes. As I said earlier, we're not bringing furniture in just to set it down and call it a day. We're actually making sure it's right for your space. We get in there and we think, you know what? If I brought 2 more pillows this color and another piece of artwork over here, it's going to make an improvement. So we want the time to be able to design your house while we're in it. We have a great idea of what we're going to need when we start, but there's always a little bit more that we usually want to add. It's a very good day if we can do it in 2 days, but usually our movers and our designers do not come at the same time because they would be stepping over each other, and you wouldn't like that either. So we want at least 2 days, but maybe 3. We coordinate that with your real estate agent to make sure that we're going to meet your picture deadlines and all the deadlines that you want to have your house on the market. So we work together as a team with your agent and with you.
Okay, great answer. Thank you for sharing that. So, and yeah, 2 to 3, I mean, usually, yeah, they're really usually 2 days.
Yeah.
So, all right. So when is payment typically due with staging companies, and when do you move the staging items?
So I can only answer for my company because most companies do it differently than we do. But I can give you an idea of how the different ways that it works. We don't get paid until you get paid, until your agent get paid, because we wait for our fee at closing. So there's no upfront money in the way that we stage homes. You know what the price is going to be based on our contract, and you know you're not going to pay that until you close the house, as long as you keep it listed with a real estate agent. However, the time that we're going to take it out is really going to depend on what your agent tells us. So our company, unlike some of the other companies, waits until you have your inspections done, because you're not paying us on a monthly basis. You're paying us a one-time fee. So we wait to hear. We're not in any rush to get that furniture out if you don't have all of your contingencies met. So we will do that when it's convenient for you and when it's okay with your real estate agent. Different companies, some companies require money up front, some require money to get on their schedule, some require a second payment, and some have a minimum of 3 months or 4 months to do. Every company is a little bit different, but this is the policy that we've handed because we don't get paid until you get paid. We haven't done our job until that has happened.
Okay, so I can answer the question about staging companies. Most of them do charge 50% or something on the front end. Do that. That is one of the great benefits of Sandy's particular company. And so, yeah, I can answer that. So, all right, so let's talk about price. So what's an average price, say on an average home, St. Charles County, say 4-bedroom, 2-story home, 2,500 square feet?
So like most companies, our fee is based on how many rooms we're going to do in the house and what the selling price of that house. The reason the selling price is important is because a $200,000 house and a $2 million house are going to have different styles of furniture. One may be much more formal because that buyer is a more formal buyer. The younger buyers, not as formal, and the style of the furniture is a little bit different, and we can do that for a lot less money. So we want to make sure that we're bringing in the right furniture to your home, so that will affect your price. Again, we don't normally do, if you have a 4-bedroom home, we don't normally do all 4 bedrooms. Why is that? Because most people will put their kids in a closet if they love the rest of the house. So we're focusing on, and I have proved that, okay. We're focusing on the rooms that the buyer is going to be living in most of the time. I sold real estate for 10 years prior, well, at the same time I started this business. And I had out-of-town buyers saying, we don't want to look at any new homes. We only want to look at older homes because those are really large bedrooms. We want our kids in large bedrooms. So I looked at all the houses that met those requirements. We're driving down the street after I've shown them some older homes, and we see a brand new home. And they said, oh, we're here. Can we just go look at that? And I said, sure. Much smaller house, didn't have all of the same space and yard space and everything. And I thought, they're not going to be interested in this. We went into the children's bedroom. So important to them, that children's bedroom. in order to open the chest of drawers, because they couldn't get a dresser in the bedroom, you had to move to the side because it hit the bed, and that's the house they bought. Why did they buy that house? Because when they went in there and saw all the pretty things, all the new furniture, everything, they saw themselves living in there. When they were looking at the older homes back at this time, people weren't staging. It looked like an old house. They wanted the glam, they wanted the bling of all, how they could live in this space with all this beautiful furniture, even though it didn't meet what they claimed to be the most important things to them.
And we find that a lot when working with buyers. So I won't say what the term or slogan we use, but anyway, we do the best we can with directing buyers in that regard. So, all right, Sandy, thank you so much. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask Sandy to come down one, and if you want to sit that way, we can share this a little bit better. So,
Stephanie, before you move on, can I add one thing?
Sure, yeah.
Sandy has said. So, like I said, I've been doing this for 31 years, and over half of it was doing new construction homes. And the one thing that I have truly realized throughout the years is that you're competing against new construction. It may not be anywhere near your house, but you are competing. And so if you've got the burgundy walls and the navy blue carpet or the pink carpet, it's not as desirable. And Sandy would certainly tell you that, or any good stager. We're not trying to get you guys to spend extra money. We're trying to help you get top dollar.
thank you.
I was just gonna add something. You make it sound so good, you should offer a service just to stage your home, even if you're not selling it, versus remodeling it, just go through a couple weeks.
Okay, funny story. I know you can't wait to hear this. I was having a party at my house, and I'm working all the time, and of course, whose house doesn't get updated all the time? My house, because I'm working all the time. 60,000 square foot of new furniture. I still have the things I love in my house. And I'm going, oh my gosh, all of these young people are going to be here for the shower. I staged my own house for the shower.
That's perfect.
That's funny. Okay, and we didn't actually go over some of the statistics, and you can see it up here. A stage home sells on average 72% faster, 17% higher price, and 6.4% actually above the list price. And then average cost of staging in St. Louis is about 0.5% of the listing price. So again, they're kind of giving you an example there of your return on your investment for staging. So, all right, again, thank you. So, Danny, there are some things that you can't change about your home. It is what it is. So, but there are certain upgrades and modifications that can increase the value of your home. So let's talk about appraisals. So what is the purpose of a real estate appraisal?
The purpose of an appraisal is basically to provide collateral for the bank. They want to know what it's worth. So as part of the puzzle, they can price out your home based on the value that I ascertain, and they can decide what part of the loan that will fit into. So an appraisal, in a short answer, is an opinion of value based on what a reasonable buyer and seller would come to an agreement on in traditional market terms. You put your house up, somebody looks at it, you come to an agreement. The bank is going to loan most likely on that home, so if something happens and it forecloses on, they want to know that they're getting the right value for their home because they're funding the money to pay for it. So I provide an opinion based on as much data as I can find in the market. So it's collateral for a bank, an opinion of the value of your home.
Okay, so what are some other purposes or situations that appraisals are needed or can be very helpful?
That's a great question. For the most part, it's for a mortgage. However, there are divorces, unfortunately, where the husband and wife need to know what it's worth and they can negotiate with the attorneys. There are estate purposes when the kids will inherit a home. And many times I've seen in that case, the kids just want to know what it's worth. But I can tell you that there's going to be, unfortunately, with money, many times that even if they're trying to do the right thing, the sister or the brother just can't understand why the home isn't worth either higher or lower what they think. So for estate purposes, knowing what your home is worth is very important and makes it a lot easier for the children if they inherit it, if they sell it, or if they're going to live there. Sometimes you just want to know if it's worth updating your home. So you will get kind of a consulting opinion from me or another appraiser, and you go in and you say what the home is worth based on your opinion of the data around, and then you would say if you do this to the home, or if you update the home, or if they put an addition on a home, you may want to say, is this what we call, kind of a nerdy term, feasible? Does this make sense on the money I'm spending that the value will also be there? I wish I could have, when I started my career 20 years ago, really stressed the importance of, before you do something to the home, find out, even just on the front end, is it worth it? Not to switch gears, but when it comes to that, one of the things that we think differently as an appraiser is we look at the market first. Where homeowners, and I get it because you're living there, you're looking at your home first. Well, as Sharon mentioned, you could be in Chesterfield, Ladue, North County, Warrenton, St. Charles. You could have the same updates in the same home, but they're worth a different value based on what I touched on earlier, and that's location. So if you're going to do an addition or do updates to your home, you may want to reach out and invest and say, what is your opinion when I go forward and do these updates, or should I? So estate purposes, divorces, sometimes refinances, and that's under the mortgage category, that if you're going to refinance or obviously purchase a home, you have the mortgage. One other thing to do, even if you're not sure if you want to go ahead and do it, but a home equity line of credit. Let's say, in our case, my wife and I, we looked at maybe downsizing or looked at a condominium complex, and we realized our rate was so low from 3 years ago that if we sold and even made money, right now for us it didn't make sense, and that's kind of how the market's log jammed, and I'm sure Sharon will touch on that. However, the home equity line of credit is a great thing because you only pay when you use it, but your value has gone up. I could say, without showing the statistics, safely say that the values have just skyrocketed the last 4 or 5 years in St. Charles, especially, or all around the country actually, since COVID really. And using that, you may just want to know what the value of your home is, and a lot of time banks will say just provide an appraisal on the home equity line of things. I do work on panels where you have to be using the appraiser that's assigned, but on home equities, I can come out and show you what the value is. But so I'd say refinances, home equities, estates, maybe for update purposes, feasibility. Those are the main reasons.
Okay, so tell us, from a consumer standpoint, how long does this appraisal process take? And what is the process, what is it that you put in your appraisal report? What is that information you gather?
Well, and I'll start off with a little joke. On 101, the sports line, they had an appraiser. It was, I think, the Ryan Kelly home line, but they had a sports show and they had an appraiser that would always call in, and they would joke and say, oh, here's what an appraiser does. They go out, look at the house, you need 200, let's find a comparable for 195, 205, and 210, that'll work, let's go have lunch. That's what a lot of people think it is, just go out there and look at the house. Well, I go out and I measure the home, do a physical inspection, not as exhaustive as a home inspector when they will get on the roof, they'll go through all the safety issues, but I'll draw up the floor plan, take notes, list the updates. If there's something majorly wrong with the home, I do report it. Broken windows, decks that are in poor shape without a railing where it's a safety issue. Like I said, I measure, go in the basement, any stories on the home. So that part is pretty simple on my end. It could take up to an hour based on the size, but typically within 30 minutes I can measure, take photos. I'm not a dust inspector, so if the appraiser comes out, you don't have to freak out that it's dirty, or we have kids, we have dogs. Unlike really the staging, I'm looking at kind of the guts of the home. I do talk about the updates. The tough part is when I get back and I have to put it into a report. That's a few hours. Sometimes it can take longer from the uniqueness of the home. But what I'm doing there is, again, I'm looking at the market and trying to find the most similar homes in the area that have sold in a reasonable time and looking at those prices, and then I'm comparing those homes to yours, and then without getting too nerdy about it, there's a bunch of ethics and definitions and cover yourself statements that I put on there, but I compare your home to other homes in the market, and so there's the inspection process, that's 30 minutes tops typically, and then a couple hours on the computer, but I schedule the appraisal, and typically you'll get it back within 48 hours, maybe 3 days after inspection, and the clients have due dates for us, so I can get them done that day, but a lot of times if I get backed up, you'll get it back within 3 days of when I inspect.
That is why people are confused between inspections and appraisals.
Yes.
You just said inspection in
I
regards to an appraisal.
Kind of to clear that up, we have to be careful about using the word inspection, but I say appraisal inspection. As appraisers, we look at the inspection as a viewing of the property. We aren't going to go in and just move a bunch of stuff. Like I said, get on the roof, put a tester on the electricity, get deep into the plumbing. There are some loans where, yes, we will turn the hot water on while we flush the toilet to make sure there's good pressure. We'll make sure there is electricity available in every room with outlets. Check all the appliances and make sure they work. We go and take a head and shoulders inspection of the attic if we can. Look in the crawl spaces. Those are basically to see the basic things. If we see huge vertical cracks in the basement, we will report it and say we're not an inspector, but we do recommend an engineer or a foundation expert to come out and look at this. For the most part, we're looking at, again, the floor plan, the updates, anything majorly wrong. It's not as exhaustive. I mean, an inspector comes out on a purchase, and they're going to give you the option, without trying to sound like an inspector, because they're very intense in what they do, but they will say, hey, we realize that you need an upgrade on your electrical panel. You can work that out between the buyer and the seller. Where I'm saying the electric works pretty much, to me it looks sufficient. If you want to go in more detail, ask the inspector, but I'm more looking at the market and making an opinion of what it would sell for.
And in looking up comparable homes, you're looking at comparable homes that have sold?
Well, in a perfect world where underwriters expect you to do this and we kind of laugh about it, yes, you want 3 sold homes that have sold in the last 3 months that are as close to yours in room count, size, style, updates. Now, we know with the low inventory out there, it's difficult, especially if you're one of the first homes to sell in 6 months in your subdivision, or if you have a very updated home and the value's there, but we have to have like comparables. So the main thing is, to keep it very simple, we use 3 sold homes, preferably within 6 months, up to a year. That pretty much shows you a snapshot of the market. In the last year, what are other homes selling for? This isn't every time the case, but if you have a ranch here in St. Peter's, which are the ones I love to do because it's a lot simpler, I look for other ranches. Typically, to keep it basic, a living room, kitchen, 3 bedrooms, and 2 baths. We call those a 5-3-2 in the nerd world of appraising. And then we look at the basement finish, and we compare those to other like homes. There are all kinds of scenarios where it gets unique as you spread out, as you're on acreage, or you're on a lake, or you're back into a highway. There's probably 20 line items that we have to look at. So for the most part, it's just 3 sold sales, but it can get a little bit more intense than that.
Okay, and I am getting really hot. Anybody else? Can you ask them to check the air conditioner temperature? Thank you. Yeah. Do we have an inspector in the room? All right, so let's talk about rooms and amenities that add the most value.
I would say right now, one of the biggest things that I've seen, and it used to be just with ranch homes, because it was assumed with a 1.5 or 2-story home it's larger, you have more living space up there. But basement finish, to me, from what I've seen, is a very, very important thing. You don't see it as much in new constructions because it's a little more costly to do. But on a typical ranch home, basement finish is a very important thing. It's not always about how updated it is. However, when we were buying a home, and it was probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, it was tough still to find a home. But we walked in on one that the agent was gonna put a sign in there, and we looked at the basement, and as soon as I went in the basement, I'm like, I'm ready to buy this. So I think basement finishes are a big deal right now. It doesn't get measured as far as living area on the main level, but it's very important because you go down, the kids go down there, there's man caves, there's another bedroom and bathroom. Basement finishes are one of the biggest things to add value to your home. After that, traditionally, kitchen and bathroom updates. The kitchen is where you spend a lot of time. So kitchen and bathrooms are big time update wise. But as far as rooms, the basement is, if you're finishing out most of your basement, that's a big deal. It's a big adjustment that I put versus other homes that don't have basement finish.
Okay, I just want to add a caveat to that. Okay, and see if you agree with this. So yes, basement finish is awesome. People want wide open spaces in a basement. They don't want tiny chopped up rooms, and they want quality finish. So if you are not a good carpenter or drywall installer, please hire a professional to do this. Call somebody that's a professional in the business before you finish your basement. Have them, a realtor, a stager, somebody who knows how it needs to get done. Because if you don't do it right, design-wise or finish-wise, it will hurt the value of the property because somebody will say, okay, I wanted a finished basement, but I gotta tear everything out now. Do you agree?
I do see that. There's the argument that if you have a blank slate, you can do what you want with it. At the same time, it's pretty costly to do it the correct way. And I would also add, not everybody reports when they finish their basement to the county, and that doesn't bother me one bit. I think the government gets enough of our money. However, if there's a code violation, or if there's somebody that checks on that and reports that, and it's not done correctly, that can be a big disadvantage, speaking of that. So I've done it both ways. I had a guy try to put it up for a nickel, and then I had a guy come back and said, what is going on? And I'm not a handyman at all. I just wanted some living space, but I wish I would have done it the first time at my previous home correctly, because that didn't work out too well. So yes, it's worth spending the money. I know in new construction, it's very expensive to do the basement. They're gonna do it perfectly, but I've also seen after you build, if you get somebody professional in there, you could save 30 to 40% doing it the right way, up to code, versus the materials of new construction, because that's just the way it is. But I see both sides.
I see this all the time, and in my own subdivision, my neighbors did not go and get all the things they needed, and they did it themselves, and before they could sell their house, they literally had to take the walls down because they wanted to inspect the plumbing, and some of the flooring, the plumbing, how it was installed. They wanted to inspect the electrical, and basically had to redo it. The other thing that I was going to say is that people will also judge your upstairs house that was built by the builder by the lower level of your house if you have not done it well, because then they proceed to believe that the same workmanship applies upstairs, and that can be to your detriment.
One other thing about basement finish, our basement is almost completely finished, which I love, but there's not much storage, so it's okay to have, say, 20-30% for storage. We all have stuff, and it's difficult if you don't have that. So just a word of advice on there, you don't have to have it 100% finished.
We encourage you not to have it 100% finished, because we know when we take buyers in, they say, oh, this is great, but there's no room for storage, so we try to give them alternatives, but yeah, it's always good to leave storage space. So is it possible to over-improve your home?
100%. Again, on the front end, I highly encourage that you get an expert opinion, even if it's just talking over the phone or some basic free research, because I've seen, especially on rehab homes, we'll go to some areas where the market really just supports some people going in there and renting a couple rooms for their kids, a kitchen, maybe a little basement finish, and the rehabber will put granite, bamboo flooring, expensive light fixtures. Now that's great that they have a lot of pride in that. But there's areas where if you just have some nice laminate flooring, some basic countertops, basic cabinets, and clean everything up, not only is that really good for the investor, but the market's not going to support some of the nicer things. I know granite's a little bit different now. It used to be something that was so expensive, but it's more available now, so that's kind of more the norm. But you can go in a nice home in certain areas that have the basic things, and that's important, but I've seen it so many times. One of the most difficult things for me, and I had a home with a pool, so it's kind of a joke with my loan officer that when I would go to appraise, anything that had a pool, he said, "You're not giving enough value." Then it was time to refinance my home, and I told him about the pool, kind of as a joke. He said, "Oh, now I know the pool's worth something." But the most obvious over-improvement, in my opinion, it spoils you, and it's a great feature, but doing too much to the pool, I did a home just right over here. This guy spent $350,000 since he moved in, right across from Fort Zumwalt East. Nicest home that I have seen, probably interior in St. Peter's. The former owner was a hotel, European hotel designer. I mean, I felt like I was at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. Outside, it had a projector that came down, a whole covered outside grill. It was incredible, and I have to be careful talking value on them at the house, because I report to my client only, and then they give it to their customer, which is the borrower. But he kind of knew, he just said, which I loved, "I've over-improved this." I mean, you're not gonna find 200,000 in landscaping and a pool in a subdivision around here. I haven't talked to him since he's gotten the report, he understood, but the pool is a huge thing. You have to be careful thinking, "Oh, everybody wants a pool," especially when there's subdivision pools everywhere. We lived in a house where we paid $350 for the year. We had 2 tennis courts, 3 pools, and a clubhouse. Someone put a pool in their subdivision in that area, and I'm thinking, we have 3 that we pay to go use, and in the winter we never have to touch it. So you got to be careful to your question on the over improvements.
Okay, so again, good idea to speak to an expert about value before you go doing major improvements on your home. So tell me, what does an appraisal cost?
Our average fee is $425. Typically, it ranges what the banks will pay, and sometimes they have third party. Since 2008, they brought on the third parties to keep it objective. That way, the loan officer back in the day, like at an American Equity Mortgage, you could walk in there and they would say, "Hey, I'll give you an order as long as you can get $200,000 for this." Well, I would say, I can't do anything based on that. They may charge $550 or $600, and now they have to hire a third company to come in and pay
what's
them.
your cost?
I'm $425.
Okay,
$425 is the average. I work with people, if you have a huge mansion, maybe a few more, but sometimes, and if there's people that need help, I'm willing to negotiate too, but for the most part, $425.
Okay, you'll negotiate, I'll remember that. Okay. No, it's too late. Okay.
Those cards are in the back.
All right, so I want you to touch real quickly on the psychology of when you walk into a home, it's clean, it's fresh, it's bright, it's been staged. Does that really have any impact on you giving value to the home?
I better say yes, huh?
No, I want you to be honest.
Yeah, I get it. When someone's doing a refinance, I tell them, "Guys, you live in your home." Now, technically, we appraise a home based on what it would sell for the day we inspect it, but I fully appreciate and understand when you're selling a home, it's going to be tip-top shape. We even get in there after it's been shown. Typically, we're the last of the process, or one of the final pieces. So I'm respectful that people are moving. I have one after this. The agent called me and was so afraid because this guy basically had a shop in their garage. He's got all these boxes he's moving in. I tell him it doesn't matter. However, I can also say, even though we have ratings on condition, there may be something on borderline, calling it, and I won't get into all the numbers, but a 3 is pretty good, a 4 is pretty average. If we're right on the border, and I see not just cleanliness, but even if there's animals, and the home is kept up nicely, I would be a fool, and I would be lying if I said it didn't kind of tip me over the edge. It's kind of like if you ever had to go to court, and you just show up looking like you don't care, the judge might go, you know what, I'm gonna look at the facts with the jury, but it does matter to have a nice home, especially when you're staging it and selling it. That is going to matter. That may tip it, even if it's $1,000 or $2. I can't put that in words, but if I walk out of there feeling like this is a well taken care of home, you know, it still is an opinion ultimately, and no matter how much data I give, if I have to make a call, it's kind of like, and rest in peace from those from St. Louis, Whitey Herzog. So many managers would go out and just yell at the umpire. Well, he would go out sometimes and just kind of explain his case. There was some gray area, and sometimes I've even seen Whitey would get the umpire to change their call, not based on anything unethical, but just the way he carried himself instead of kicking dirt and yelling at the ump. Well, if your house is nice, there may be a time where I'm like, you know what, I'm going this way with it. But also I've seen brand new constructions, like going 6 months later and there's a better rate and there's chalk and crayons on the walls, great stuff. But it's like, this home has been trashed, and it's hard for me to overlook that.
So I think what you were saying is, yes,
It does.
cleanliness, smelling good, being fresh, being organized, potentially, you know, staging is awesome, right?
Real quick.
Real quick.
I've got to be careful when I say I'm influenced by a clean house, so I kind of talk attorney talk, but it helps. So if that's a yes, that's a yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, moving ahead. So, I get asked all the time, so how's the market, meaning the real estate market? And I believe most consumers think that the money they're going to get for their home is solely based on how the market's doing. So it certainly does have a lot to do with it, but there are many more factors involved. So Sharon, what's the current state of the real estate market? Would you say it's a buyer's market, seller's market, or a balanced market?
Today it's a seller's market, and it has been for a few years now. One of the reasons it has become such a seller's market is because of lack of inventory.
Is that better?
Slide. Yeah. So there's a lack of supply, and there's a lot of demand. And that's why it is such a seller's market. We know today, I'm going to kind of jump a little bit, but we know today that there's less than 2 months worth of inventory on the market. That's why houses, they put a sign in the yard and it's in good shape and it's in the area that you want to be, it sells. Some of the other issues though with supply and demand has been the new home construction when the market quote unquote crashed back in 07, 08, and I was selling new construction back then. They basically came to a standstill, and there's certain areas of St. Charles County that you weren't even sure were going to survive what happened in 2007 and 8. Wentzville being one of them. Wentzville was the fastest growing, and all of a sudden it became a dead stop. The pandemic, people, it changed things. It changed supplies and people not wanting to work. My son is an electrician, and he tells me every day how hard it is to get jobs done because the crews don't show up to do what they're supposed to do. It's a big deal. So labor shortages, rising material costs, and once again, not so much now, but back when COVID was really strong, there was a supply chain issue. We all saw pictures on the news, and the freight boats were sitting out in the middle of the water, and they couldn't come to land, and there was all sorts of material sitting on it, which then allowed Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, every place was raising prices because of the lack of being able to get it to the store. Also in the last few years, we've had a huge influx of immigration, and that affects the supply and demand on homes. Once again, there's more people that are wanting to buy the same house. The other thing too is there's a lot of investors. You see them buy ugly houses, or they'll go and they want to improve their portfolio for their own personal finances, and they'll go out and buy real estate. So now all of a sudden you're competing against them as well. And then finally, people are living longer in their homes. It used to be that people moved every 5 to 7 years, and I think what Stephanie was telling me yesterday, it's more like 13 years. So it's definitely changed.
Okay, so a couple things I want to go back and point out is that what kind of market it is. It's a seller's market. And that is not only just because we feel it, but statistics, economists look at a thing called the absorption rate and see how long it takes to absorb the inventory that's on the market. So it actually talks about 3 months or less available inventory is considered a seller's market. And we're not quite even at 2 months yet. So we're still a pretty strong seller's market. So let's talk about some current statistics for our area. In St. Charles County, specifically, this is St. Charles County information, and I'll have Sharon talk about it in a second, and then we're going to flip to the next slide, which is going to show you, more information here on residential detached. Okay, this is giving you the trends from 2014 up to 2024. It's comparing the entire MLS with St. Charles County, the blue line being St. Charles County. Look how far ahead St. Charles County is. Okay, over here this is looking at townhouses and condos. Can you flip back to the last slide though? Okay, so real quick, Sharon, you want to give us a brief overview of this information?
So when you look at 2023, there was 320 new listings in February of 23 versus February of 24, 402. So there is an increase. Then you go down to pending sales and you can see that pending sales are up. Closed sales are actually down a little bit. Days on market are less, once again, because there's a lack of inventory. But really the big thing is the medium sales price. A year ago, February, if you had sold your house, $320 was the average. Today it's $363. We're seeing houses sell over asking if they're in good shape. A year ago it was 100.3, now it's 101. So you're just seeing increases all the way through. A year ago, there was 474 homes available on the market. In February of this year, it was 641. So once again, another increase. But really the biggest thing is the month supply of inventory. A year ago, it was just barely over a month. Here we are a year later, and it's at 1.8. So there's still less than 2 months supply of homes available for sale in St. Charles County. You can see there's some additional numbers that talk about year-to-date, last year versus this year, how a year ago prices were basically $321, today they're $350, just showing all the way through that the market continues to go up in value.
Okay, thank you. So, for those of you who have complained about the valuation from the assessor's office, this is why, okay? Your value has gone up, definitely, considerably. And this is just showing in the past year. So, yeah. All right, so we have a slide on something called the Golden Triangle. So Sharon, you want to fill us in on what the Golden Triangle, has anybody heard that term before, the Golden Triangle? Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, so, once again, when I got into the business, it was 1993, and I was selling new homes in O'Fallon off of Highway K. Highway K back then was a 2-lane road. So you look at K, 31 years ago versus today, unbelievable. But the Golden Triangle, they took from Highway 70 bridge and the Highway 40 bridge, and they drew it out to Wentzville, and that quote-unquote is the Golden Triangle. And what that means is that in the last 30 years, that's where the fastest growth was happening.
I had
Yeah.
an assistant who gave me a newspaper clipping of that. I don't know if it was 30, 40 years. I don't know the time flies, but it was amazing. They were talking about developing it, maybe in the 60s even.
Oh, yeah.
It was the coolest thing to go back and retro see that. It's like, wow, we're gonna go out to O'Fallon or Cape Springs, and
There was
it's
nothing.
like nothing now.
Yeah, we were, we lived in the area for a while, so we were talking about when Mid Rivers Mall went in, there was nothing around it, and it was a standalone Macy's or famous bar at that time. Yeah, it was crazy how much growth there's been. So another new thing, so the golden, I'm just gonna go back, Golden Triangle, would you say that real estate is very local?
Absolutely, absolutely. What I've seen in my time of being in the business is that what created kind of this golden triangle was that we had a lot of people moving from North County, and they were coming to St. Charles County. And then the locals that were in St. Charles County were like, oh my gosh, who are all these people? And they moved further west. And then people that were more west were even going further west. Well, now we see it changing. People that maybe 20 years ago, they were in their late 30s, early 40s, and they were on acreage. Well, now they're my age. They're in their mid-60s. Well, I don't want to take care of 3 to 5 acres anymore. I want to move back in. So we see a constant flux back and forth, especially in St. Charles County.
Yes, so St. Charles County is the fastest growing county in Missouri.
And it
And
probably
we have been for quite a while.
Yeah, I would say every bit of 30 years.
And it has been, and more recently, the fastest growing in the country as well.
Okay, thank you. So let's, a lot of you may, if you watch the news or read the blogs and information on your, interest rates. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about interest rates, Sharon. So we have a slide here about interest rates, and this is actually something from April 8th, which last I heard, they've jumped up from these. So real quick, let's talk about interest rates and how they impact the market.
So we all know 2-3 years ago, you were able to get 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, and people were bidding $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, $200,000 over asking price because the interest rates were so low. Well then, our economy has adjusted, unfortunately, when it comes to interest rates, and we've seen those rates go up. At one point, we were kind of at a standstill with buyers because they were trying to adjust to, oh my gosh, at 3% I could have bought a $400,000 house. Well, now at 6% or 6.5%, 7%, I can only buy a $200,000 house or a $250,000 house. The biggest thing I'll tell you is it has not stopped buyers from buying. And one of the things Stephanie and I were talking about yesterday, once again, when I got into the business in '93, interest rates were at 10%. So being in the 6s, even though it seems high to our younger buyers, it kind of ebbs and flows. And if you've been in
I think
the,
we have a slide on that too.
okay,
There we go.
yeah.
Good.
So, yeah.
I think almost 20%.
20%. When I was a kid, we lived in West County, and my parents were paying 20%.
Oh,
So, but that was the interest rate back in 1970.
So Danny had said it actually when he was talking about a personal situation of them looking and mentioned, oh, well, we have an interest rate of like 3% or something. And then when he looked at potentially making a move, and if you have to use financing, you're looking at 7%. So more than doubling maybe your current interest rate. So that's causing a logjam.
I will
Which
say, yeah, not to pitch the industry, but I don't think rates, I can't predict they're gonna go up more, although even the last couple of weeks it's been rough news, but there still is a good need for buying, and then people just think, well, I'll refinance later, which is still a good move. It's just tough on the front end
Yep.
to visualize that a couple of years ahead.
Right, right. So we've been telling people, buyers, you know, you
Date the rate.
date the rate. Marry the house, but date the rate, okay? Because you can refinance. Yeah, okay. All right, so next we were going to quickly touch on the hubbub about the lawsuits in the real estate market and new legislation that's coming into place for realtors in July of 2024. So I'm actually sharing this information, and I'm going to kind of hit this one, Sharon, if you don't mind. So I'm the broker at the office, so I have privy to information before most of agents out there. What I can tell you is there's not a whole lot changing. There is going to be things put in place that are definitely going to provide some clarity to the consumers, though, and transparency. So real estate brokerage, we established our services offered, our fees, and our compensation, okay? Compensation is not set by law, and it is negotiable between the broker and the consumer. Compensation for services may be paid by the buyer or seller, a combination of, or a third party, depending on the situation. That I need more information on, which we don't have clarity on that, or negotiated by the parties to a transaction as part of the contract. Nothing really has changed on that, but it is just being made much more clear, okay? Representation requires a written agreement. That is something that it'll be interesting to see who's going to police that, but that's the law, and that's, I know, what we're going to abide by, and we have, at least on our team. And last but not least, not all real estate licensees are created equal. Some are realtors. These are regulations for realtors, which means we're a member of the National Association of Realtors. So I just wanted to touch on that, so if any of you are confused on the changes, yes, there was a lawsuit. I understand it averaged. The people that had sold homes during that period, they got an average of $6 to $7. Okay, so nothing. Lawyers made a lot. So in our world, it means more paperwork and more conversations. But I think there is some benefit to it, that there is very transparency on commissions is going to have to be fully explained better. So, okay, so Sharon, how do most realtors determine and suggest a list price for a home?
Of course, the first thing is coming to visit and taking a look at the home with you. And then we look at current market conditions, what's active on the market. We look at what's recently sold in the area. We look at the condition and updates of the home. And I mentioned way earlier when Sandy was speaking about if you've got burgundy carpet or burgundy walls and navy blue, and those things do affect the value of your home. They may be colors that you absolutely love. And I'll give you a quick example. When I met my husband 18 years ago, his previous wife had powder blue and pink wallpaper everywhere. I was selling new home construction. I knew what all the latest trends were, and I'm like, this has to go, this has to go. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm like, if you ever want to sell this house, it has to be brought up to current trends. The amenities and the floor plan itself. It used to be that people wanted a lot of rooms, boxier floor plans. Well, now the trend for the last several years has been open concept, open concept, open concept. Well, now it's actually changing again, isn't it, Sandy, where it's kind of a combination of the two?
Yes.
Yeah. New construction, like I said earlier, you may not be living directly by it, but I promise you, you're competing with it. A buyer that's going to spend $400,000 and walks into a brand new house that's staged and it smells good and it looks pretty, versus walking into a house that maybe is 20, 30, 40 years old and no updates have been done, but they're on a bigger lot maybe. Oh, well, my house should be worth that much because of the size of the lot or because of this or that. You're always going to compete against new construction homes. And then finally, it's your personal situation as the seller. We have to look at that. Are you wanting to sell now? Do you want to sell in 6 months? Do you need to have an estate sale? Do we need to bring all the kids together to have a conversation? So there's so much that goes into determining the value of your home.
Okay, thank you. we are running very long, so I'm going to try to really quick breeze through a couple slides here. So we have put together some things that a seller can do themselves to get the most amount of money. So we have decluttering and depersonalize. And we also say neutralize, okay? So if you have wild colors throughout your home, we may need to tame it down.
Wallpaper. The worst. Wallpaper is the worst.
So add another back.
I did not, we had not talked about that, but okay.
Wallpaper,
So,
kiss of death.
okay. Deferred maintenance items, get those things taken care of. Clean your house, interior and exterior, meaning windows are clean, power washing. Providing detailed records of updates and home maintenance. That's information that a realtor should be asking you for, and utilize that in their marketing of your home. You should be considering or talking with your realtor about financing options for prospective buyers. So different types of financing have different requirements. USDA, FHA, VA. And also in the area, do you have a municipal or safety inspection? Luckily, they're not too prevalent in our area, St. Charles County, but there are some in spot areas. Most of them are more in the St. Louis side. It does have a bearing on what we're going to recommend you to do based on your goals. Next slide. Yes.
One thing that we didn't mention is the way the exterior looks. If your landscaping's in poor shape, or it's overgrown, or you have not maintained it, that first view, once again, if it doesn't look good from the outside, why do I want to walk inside? So something as simple as curb appeal is actually very huge when we're showing houses.
Absolutely. Okay. Things a good realtor should be doing for you. Number one, they should be your fiduciary. They should be representing you well. They should be communicating with you, asking a lot of questions and listening. They should have a consultative approach, that they're willing to meet you well in advance. They're willing to meet you if you have a question about updating your home or upgrading your home. They should be willing to come out and have a conversation with you and educate you on that. They should be honest, professional, have compassion and empathy. And honest, that means not being afraid to tell you the truth, okay? If your house smells like a dog, you need to know that, okay? You go nose blind. If you have wallpaper, that's a conversation that they need to be honest and have with you. Explaining the steps of the sale process and setting clear expectations. A good realtor will be very proactive and bulletproof the transaction. And what we mean by that is that looking ahead. Are we going to get a USDA buyer? Are we going to get an FHA buyer? Do we need to worry about that electrical panel because there's a safety inspection that applies? And provide trusted resources and a seller's net sheet. So we want to know where you're going, what your intentions are, make sure those are realistic and fit within the time frame, and also that you're going to ultimately get the amount of money that you think you're going to and be able to accomplish your goals. Sometimes it's not always the right time to sell. And this is the roadmap. They should talk about all the different steps in the transaction. So, real quick, Sharon, do you recommending having staging done? Yes, no, or sometimes?
Absolutely. Except, and we just had this happen, we had a seller that had passed away and the sons lived out of state. Stephanie and I had discussed it. The house was not in good shape to begin with. And if we had brought staging in, it really would have been lipstick on a pig. So we sold it vacant, We priced it accordingly, sold it vacant, and still sold it for way over asking price. So for this particular sale, it was all about location. Something that Stephanie didn't mention, I just want to say real quick. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 9 months, 12 months, I'm 18 months away from being ready to sell my house, it's okay, we'll still come talk to you. And the other thing too that I know we both pride ourselves on, we do this full time. This is what we do. So we're not running into, oh, I gotta go to work, I'll call you after this, or this is what we choose to do every single day. And I feel like that's really important when you're talking to other realtors to know what their commitment is to you.
Okay, we have run really long, and I apologize. And I apologize to you guys for kind of cutting some of you off here. So how about a quick round of applause for our panelists? Now open it up to questions. Yes, Donna.
I live in a condo, so HOA rules are applying. I have terrible storm damage. My house just awful. I mean, it's like shredded. We've been told it could be 2026 for the whole complex. Everyone is getting a new roof. There's 119 units. And we haven't even heard about the siding yet because
It's a tough situation.
I'm not thinking of selling, but what if? How does that, because I'm probably gonna have to pay a portion of the deductible.
So that's a really, really involved question.
I know.
And we would love to help answer that,
Okay.
but maybe you can talk with Sharon after in
Okay.
case there's anybody else that has a quick question.
Well, I have a
Okay.
second one. What's the order to do things? Who comes first up there?
We're a team.
Well, we're always a team, but it depends. I mean, typically it is the real estate agent. Now, not always an appraiser gets involved before you put your home on the market, but if you want to have an appraisal done, certainly bring in the appraiser. Staging, we always like to come in with Sandy sooner than later.
Let me explain just.
The reason that it's a good idea to bring a stager in sooner than later is that most stagers are more than just bringing furniture. We should be up to date with what the trends are, what things in your house are going to prevent you from selling. These are the things that we should be looking at every day, so we can come in there and say, okay, these are the things that are going to make you more money. Yes, no one out there usually has a wallet that just will pay for everything, so we should also be telling you what is the priority to get you more money. But we can give you paint colors and all of those things.
So I will answer that briefly. Have your agent come in. We are the hub of everything. So we have the resources, we have the recommendations, we are the point of contact that will help give you direction if we need to have an appraisal done first. That's not normal, but there are situations that we would have an appraiser come in. But we, as the realtors, should be knowledgeable in all of those areas and give the direction from there.
And she's going to be the one to tell you that you need a stager.
Barb.
So I've lived in my house for 56 years.
Wow.
Have a postage stamp bathroom off of my primary bedroom. I would like to build to the back of it, increase my closet space, increase the bedroom, and put a washer and dryer, laundry space there. Is that gonna be appropriate?
Okay, so I am going, is you on a 2-story home? You're in a ranch? Okay, all right, regardless, I would say yes,
Yes.
okay?
I completely agree. Main level laundry, or even in a 2-story home, the laundry on the second floor is an awesome idea because that's where most of the rooms are. But having that laundry room and a bigger bathroom, I'll be safe to say I'll have to look at the comparables, but I'd be happy to just look up on my time, my dime, and just give you an idea. But I think for sure that's probably one of the biggest investments you can make.
Thank you for offering that. Appreciate that, Danny. And that's the reason he's here today. So, okay. Other questions?
Just another quick one for the appraiser possibly. How does your appraisal differ from the city's appraisal of my home?
I I did. That was a question I had on there that didn't get asked.
Well, unless it's a new construction, typically the county or the city does not know what's inside the home. There are county sketches that are pretty close, a lot of times right on the outside measurements of your home, but they do ask the homeowner to report what they're doing on the inside with the basement and whatnot, so they don't come into your home. That's the big difference. They do look at a market approach and look at the median sales as they reflected on and kind of get a general idea. And I will say for St. Charles County, for a long time, they were pretty close, but it's hard for even the county to keep up with the asking prices and the home prices over the list price. So they don't have as much information. A lot of times people would say, my home's appraised for too high, and I still have to go up there and there objectively. And with a professional appraisal, it would help fight your taxes. But now I would say it's hard for the county to keep up with the rising values.
Yes, and that's another thing is, as a realtor, they should be a resource for you. Call, if you don't have somebody, call us. We're happy to give you, do a little bit of research and give you an idea of what the value of your home is currently. And I will tell you, even though we all got big increases on our real estate taxes, they still are not at where the value actually is today if you went to sell.
A lot of people say, hey, can I get my taxes down? And I'll just say, well, let me take a peek. And even though I'm supposed to be objective about it, I'll just say, don't even have me out. It's just a waste of your money.
Right.
Because I don't want to act as your attorney to try to fight them when there's obviously no evidence. So we're pretty fortunate.
You're fighting a losing battle. Just unfortunately, just pay it. But there is that tax freeze that is available now for people who qualify in St. Charles County. So, yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is that St. Peter's as well? And how do you go about that? I went down to the office in St. Charles, and they didn't seem to know anything about it. And I was like, well, I thought they were supposed to have...
It's St. Charles County, and we actually had information last time that we gave out. And if you want to have us call you, we'll send you the application and directions on that. Okay? All right. Great question. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
They have some of the applications right down the hall.
They have some down the hall.
They did the other day, yes.
Okay. All right, ma'am, did you hear that? They had some down the hall. It's on their county website and that too as well, but yeah. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Selling a home if your appliances are 10 years old. What do you do?
Okay. You can go quick on that one? Well, I'm going to say it really depends on the whole picture of things, what we're going to recommend, okay? And I've recently been in a home that did have older appliances, although they were still in great condition and older. Based on the situation, I said, just leave them as they are. They're pretty easy for a buyer to say, hey, I can update, switch that out. It's not a major renovation.
The nerdy part of our appraisal, it says kitchen and bathrooms, have they been updated or remodeled within the last year, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15. Two things about condition. One is how new something is. Number two, how it's taken care of. If you have a little bit older appliances, what she said, and they're in great shape, that's not going to hinder you. At the same time, some people want the bling depending on your area. So I've seen people upgrade every couple of years, and I think it's a little overkill, but if you think it helps, that's what it is.
And you have to understand, we're kind of, realtors come from it from the standpoint of what buyers are wanting and what they're looking for. And then we always have to weigh everything in on, okay, is the home, if somebody's getting financing who's going to buy the home, is it going to appraise? So we do also have to keep up on how appraisers view things as well.
One of the things that we didn't mention, if you're thinking of selling your house, look at your house as a buyer, right? I mean, don't look at your, oh, this is my home and it's this and it's that. Try to look at your house as a new buyer walking in.
And it's hard.
It is hard.
It's really hard, and I will tell you, putting my house on the market, I am moving everything out and having the whole thing staged. I am not living there. I am not dealing with that at all.
Very easy way to look at that is that what you're getting in your new place? Is that wallpaper, are you putting that wallpaper in your new house? No, why do you think someone else wants that wallpaper in the house they're buying? It's hard,
It
but
is
that is exactly it. Most people say, oh no, I've got new gray carpet and walls and there has to be a balance.
And even, people like myself, I'm gonna have other fellow realtors come in
Yes.
to evaluate my house because it's my home,
Yeah.
And it's hard to distance yourself and look at it as a product or a commodity in that
When it
regard.
becomes a house, when you're getting ready to sell your home, it's no longer your home. It becomes a house. You have to emotionally detach from, because the memories are all up here, and we hold them in here. They're not in the pieces of paper or in the 300 books that we have, or for my husband, his clothes from high school that still fit him. It's those things that you have to start detaching from, and staging really helps that.
I was, just to put a pretty little bow on this, two things. Number one, with all the news out, you referred to the lawsuit, with all the hearsay you get to from media, ask us. We're the ones on the battlefields. We'll get you the information. And then two, what she said, if you have a stock, oh, it went down, oh, it went up, it's good coffee talk. If you have a car, you drive it off the lot, for the most part, it's gonna go down. You accept it. When your home goes down or people tell you something that's not gonna sell in your home, it is personal. But like you said, it still is market driven. So if your car can go down in value, if your stocks go up or down, we accept it. When it's your home, it's really difficult to set back and say, this buyer's not gonna care if my grandkid was on the swing set and we went out and made lemonade and all that. It still is market driven, and as unemotional as that is, even from the appraisal standpoint, it's just dollars and cents.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good points, guys. Thank you very much. How about another round of applause? If you want to sign up for our next seminar, May 15th, it's going to be on physical health, new options for strength, balance, and staying out of pain. And then a couple other ones that we're working on now. And again, if you sign up and give us your email address, we will send you information and let you know what the subject matter is coming up. So thank you all for coming today. Sorry we ran over.